I never thought the biggest betrayal of my life would come from the person I shared a roof, a childhood, and my dreams with. My own sister. I gave her everything, paid her bills, covered her tuition, made sure she had food, internet, even comfort. I never told anyone. I didn't want praise. I just wanted peace. But one night, while I slept, she picked up a pair of scissors and took something I couldn't replace. Not just my hair. Not just my dignity. She stole the last bit of trust one had left in her. She thought it was a joke. She thought I'd stay silent. She had no idea what was coming next. My name is Alina, and I'm 26 years old. If you saw us back then, you'd think my sister and I were best friends. People always said we looked alike, same dark hair, same smile. But what they didn't know was how different we were inside. I worked 2 jobs. One at a small bakery in the mornings and one at a bookstore in the evenings. It wasn't glamorous, but I made enough to support both of us. My parents had moved overseas a few years ago for work, and since then, I had taken full responsibility for the house. Rent, groceries, electric bills, even her college tuition. I paid for everything. Quietly. I didn't expect a thank you. I did it because I loved her. Her name was Tessa. She was 21, beautiful, full of confidence, and always surrounded by friends. She didn't have a job. She didn't need one, not while I was paying the bills. I thought she was focused on college and just needed support for a while. I had no idea she was getting jealous of me. It started small. She'd make jokes about my hair, how it was too long, or so boring. I brushed it off. I thought maybe she was stressed. But then she started copying the clothes I wore. If I got a compliment at work, she'd mock me for it later. Still, I stayed silent. I believed that helping family meant putting up with a few bad days. I never complained. I just smiled, worked harder, and made sure the bills were paid on time. I even cut back on my own meals sometimes just to make sure Tessa had enough for her classes and social life. But nothing could have prepared me for what she did next. It was a Friday night, and I came home later than usual. The bakery had a last-minute order for a wedding cake, and I stayed back to help. My feet ached and my back was sore. I barely had the energy to eat, so I just changed into my pajamas and fell straight into bed. Tessa wasn't home yet. At least, that's what I thought. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing nonstop. Dozens of notifications. Texts. Tags. Comments. I rubbed my eyes, still half asleep, and reached for the phone. What I saw made my blood run cold. Photos of me, sleeping, had been posted on Facebook. But something was wrong. My hair, which had always been long and thick, was chopped. Uneven. Strands sticking out in all directions. Some parts were nearly bald. One post had the caption, "She thinks she's all that. Not anymore. Hashtag makeover while sleeping." My heart dropped. I ran to the mirror and screamed. It wasn't just a bad haircut. It was revenge. It was humiliation. I stormed out of my room, my hands shaking. Tessa was in the kitchen, eating cereal like nothing had happened. When she saw me, she smiled. "Morning. Like your new look." I couldn't speak at first. My mouth was dry. My throat felt tight. All I could do was whisper, "Why would you do this?" She shrugged. "You always act like you're better than me. Now you look the way you really are, plain and pathetic." I wanted to cry, but I refused to let her see me break. I turned away and walked back to my room, my hands gripping the doorframe to stay steady. What she didn't know was that while she was busy cutting my hair and trying to cut me down, I was the one keeping her entire life from falling apart. But not anymore. I sat on my bed in silence, staring at the floor, still feeling the rough, uneven patches on the back of my head. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. Instead, I pulled out the small box where I kept every receipt, every invoice, every transfer slip. Years of proof, college payments, rent deposits, Wi-Fi bills, groceries, everything. Tessa had no idea I'd been keeping it all. That same morning, before she left for whatever party or class she still thought she could attend, I spread the papers across the dining table. Neat rows. Dates. Amounts. Her name on every one. On top of the stack, I left a sticky note with just 4 words. "You're on your own." Then I packed my things. Not all of them. Just what I needed, my work clothes, my savings envelope, and my dignity. I didn't even touch the food in the fridge. I didn't want anything she might have touched. I sent a message to my landlord directly and told him I was moving out, effective today. I'd been paying the rent under my name anyway. He didn't argue. In fact, he sounded surprised I hadn't left sooner. Before walking out the door, I took one last look around. This wasn't just a home. It was the place I had worked so hard to hold together, for both of us. And now it was just a hollow box filled with bitterness. Tessa didn't see me leave. She came home later that night to an empty hallway, a dark kitchen, and a dining table full of truths she never expected. She called me 3 times. I didn't answer. She texted, "What the hell is this?" I didn't reply. Let her figure it out. Because the bills were coming due. And for once, she'd have to pay. By the time the weekend ended, I had already found a small studio apartment near my bookstore job. It was nothing fancy, a single room with a kitchenette and a tiny window, but it was clean, peaceful, and most importantly, mine. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was carrying someone else's weight. Meanwhile, Tessa's life began to unravel. On Monday morning, she tried attending her college classes. But without the tuition payment I usually made on the first of the month, her student account was locked. Her ID card didn't work. She was pulled aside by admin and told she had 7 days to clear her balance or she'd be dropped from the semester. She texted me again. "They're threatening to kick me out. You better fix this." I blocked her. By Wednesday, our landlord messaged me again. Not because of rent this time, but because he saw an eviction notice nailed to the door. Tessa hadn't paid a single utility bill either. The lights were turned off. The internet too. And the food? Gone in a day because she never stocked it herself. Word spread fast in her social circle. Once her classmates realized she wasn't the rich, stylish girl she pretended to be, but rather someone who lived off her sister's silent generosity, they stopped returning her messages. Even her so-called best friend posted a story that said, "Karma doesn't miss." And her boyfriend? He dumped her by text. "Too much drama," he said. "And I don't date freeloaders." I didn't enjoy her downfall. I really didn't. But a part of me, a quiet, wounded part, felt a strange peace knowing the truth was finally louder than her lies. And this was just the beginning. A few weeks passed. I was settling into my new place. Life was still tough. Rent, groceries, and bills all added up, but it felt lighter now. I wasn't feeding someone who resented me. Every dollar I spent was mine. Every step I took was my own. One morning, I opened my laptop to check emails and saw a trending post from someone I didn't know. It was a screenshot of Tessa's Facebook meltdown. Her post read, "My sister abandoned me and left me homeless. She's selfish and fake. After everything I've done for her, this is how she repays me?" Underneath, she posted a teary selfie, pretending to be the victim. I almost laughed. That's when I made a choice, not out of anger, but out of clarity. I opened a blank document and wrote a full statement. Nothing dramatic, just the truth. I attached screenshots of payment receipts, tuition deposits, rent transfers, and photos of the documents I'd left on our dining table. Then I uploaded it all with a caption. "This is for the silent ones. The givers. The ones who get betrayed by the people they protect." Within hours, it exploded. People shared it, commented, supported me. Some called me brave. Others said they had been through the same. My inbox filled with messages from strangers, many of them siblings, thanking me for speaking out. The best part? Tessa's old post got flagged for false claims and was taken down. The very people who once liked and laughed at her hair-cutting prank were now apologizing to me. She tried messaging me again. This time, she wrote, "You ruined me. Are you happy now?" I didn't reply. I didn't need to, because I had finally spoken up and people listened. Just when I thought the storm had passed, another message hit my inbox, this time from someone completely unexpected. A woman named Rachel Mendez, a financial officer from Tessa's college, reached out after reading my public post. She had questions. Apparently, some of the documents Tessa used to apply for scholarships and grants listed my income and bank information without my permission. She had forged parts of her application to make it look like we were both contributing equally, when in fact, I had been the sole provider all along. It wasn't just a violation of school policy, it was fraud. Rachel said the college had opened a formal investigation, and if I was willing to provide statements, they could take legal action. I agreed. I emailed everything. Scanned copies of bills, payment records, even old text messages where Tessa thanked me for handling the boring adult stuff. It was more than enough. 2 weeks later, I got the update. Tessa had been expelled. And because the school had provided her with financial aid under false pretenses, she now owed over $12,000 in back payments. She tried to fight it, of course, claimed it was a misunderstanding. But her forged documents spoke louder than her excuses. The school even banned her from reapplying to any associated colleges in the district for the next 3 years. That wasn't the only fallout. Since the story had gone viral, a few local blogs picked it up. One titled their article, "When Your Sister Pays Your Way and You Repay Her with Scissors." Tessa became infamous in all the wrong ways. Job offers? Gone. College dreams? On hold. Friends? Disappeared. Me? I felt stronger than ever. For once in my life, I wasn't the quiet sister or the invisible helper. I was seen. I never imagined that my quiet, behind-the-scenes life would land me in the public eye. But now I was being asked to speak, not just online, but in real life. A local podcast invited me to share my story. The host said, "You didn't just stand up for yourself. You spoke for everyone who's ever been taken for granted." At first, I was nervous. I didn't think my voice mattered that much. But when I walked into that small studio, something inside me clicked. I told everything. Not just about Tessa cutting my hair, but about the years of silent sacrifice, the emotional weight, and the moment I chose myself over a toxic bond. When the episode went live, the response was overwhelming. People wrote in saying they cried listening. Others said they finally found the courage to set boundaries in their own lives. A few shared their own painful stories, sisters who stole from them, brothers who manipulated them, friends who used them. I wasn't alone anymore. That one podcast turned into 2, then 5. One day, I got a message from a well-known self-help author. She wanted to feature a short version of my story in her upcoming book on family betrayal and healing. Meanwhile, Tessa tried to post a few bitter comments online, calling me attention-seeking and vindictive. But nobody was listening anymore. Her words didn't sting. They just bounced off the armor I'd built from truth, pain, and finally, peace. And the hair she ruined? It was growing back. Slowly, but beautifully. I'd gotten it trimmed by a professional stylist who had seen my story and offered a free makeover. When I looked in the mirror, I saw someone new. Not broken. Not quiet. Just real. And strong. What started as a cruel joke had become my rebirth. And I wasn't done yet. It was a Sunday afternoon when I heard the knock. I had just finished recording a short video for my new YouTube channel. Yes, I'd started one. People loved my quiet, honest storytelling. I talked about personal growth, self-worth, and how to rebuild after betrayal. The comments were full of support. For the first time in my life, I was being heard, not because I screamed, but because I finally stopped hiding. The knock came again, louder this time. When I opened the door, I froze. It was Tessa. She looked nothing like the girl I had once called my sister. Her makeup was smudged, her clothes wrinkled, and her eyes empty. She didn't even try to smile. Just stood there holding a single plastic grocery bag. "I have nowhere to go," she whispered. I messed up. I didn't say anything. I just stared at her, remembering every moment, the hair, the lies, the laughter when she saw me broken. "I was wrong," she said again, voice cracking. "You were the only one who ever helped me." I didn't understand until it was gone. Until everyone else walked away too. There was a long pause. For a second, I felt that old tug in my chest, the one that used to say, "Forgive her. Help her. fix it. But then I thought about the girl I used to be. The one who stayed quiet while being walked on. The one who gave everything and got nothing but shame in return. And I softly said, I hope you find a way forward. But I'm not your way anymore. I closed the door. I didn't slam it. I didn't shout. I just closed it firm, final, and free. As I turned back to my little studio space, I saw my reflection in the window. My hair was growing back, my spine straighter than ever. I wasn't the victim of her story anymore. I was the author of mine. A full year passed. The girl who once cried silently in her room, brushing tears through chopped hair and unpaid respect, no longer existed. I had built something new, something mine. My YouTube channel grew faster than I expected. People connected with me, not because I was famous or flawless, but because I was real. I started a weekly series called The Quiet Givers, stories from people like me who had been used, manipulated, or betrayed by their own family. I read their letters. I shared their voices. And slowly, we became a community, a movement. A small media agency even reached out and offered to sponsor a mini docuseries around my story. We filmed it with simple lights, in my little studio, surrounded by candles and warm tones. The title? Cut Off: What Happens When the Strongest Finally Walk Away. It trended for a week. My audience grew. So did my confidence. I started getting invited to speak at women's support groups, small events, even local schools. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was thriving. My words had power. And I finally believed it. As for Tessa, I don't really know where she ended up. I heard she moved to a different city, maybe trying to start fresh. She never tried to contact me again after that day at my door. And that's okay. Not every story ends with a hug. Not every bond survives the truth. But healing doesn't need an apology to begin. It needs a choice. I chose myself. And now, when I run my fingers through my hair, healthy, full, growing, I smile. Because every inch of it reminds me of how far I've come. Of how strong I became when I finally stopped pouring myself into people who only held out empty cups. I am no longer afraid to walk away. I am no longer afraid to be alone. I am no longer afraid to be me. This is my story. And I'm still writing it.